What's up everybody, Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming here with a new review, and I never thought that I would see the day where I would be reviewing Gears of War on a PlayStation system. And all I gotta say is, I've beaten every single Gears of War game. I've already beaten them, each and every single one of them. But, playing it again, this time knowing that it's now going to be multi-platform, being able to play with Xbox, being able to play with PlayStation against Steam players, against Microsoft players. It's just Gears of War, back when it first came out, really was one of the first, but along with Halo 3 and Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Gears of War is one of those games that you wish that you could re-experience again. It was one of those early Xbox 360 games, but it was one of the very few that felt next gen. You know, the story, at the time, people thought that Gears of War and Halo would be competitors, but they're both owned by the same company, so you would think, how would they be competing with each other unless Gears was on another platform. But Gears of War, in my opinion, like, no cap to the Halo series. The Halo series, despite its ups and downs, is a monumental franchise, and it got to where it is for a reason. But Gears of War, in my personal opinion, was my favorite out of the two. I remember when my brother first got an Xbox 360, and me and him, we played this game together on co-op. We went through it together, and wow, just incredible. Now, the story is, yes, this early mid 2000s kind of story that you would see at the time with alien creatures or abominations, these types of games where you have creatures fighting humans, whether they're from Earth, beneath the ground, bugs, aliens from space. You know, the only other game that could have came close to this at the time was Resistance, Fall of Man, and the whole Resistance trilogy, but Gears of War persisted beyond that series, which is sad because that series is a really good series too. I wish they would give that series the treatment that they gave the Gears treatment. Now, Gears of War Reloaded is just Gears of War Ultimate Edition, but patched up to be faster, look nicer. I remember the old grime look of, like, the whole gritty look of the original on 360, but you know, the fact that there's more clarity and more colors, it looks really good to look at. It's just really, you know, you can see the detail and everything now. You know, the locusts look even more terrifying, which, in my personal opinion, I'm more afraid of the locusts than I am of the Alien Covenant or not Alien Covenant, wrong fucking franchise, shoot me in the head. The entire Covenant from Halo. The only time they scared me is with Halo Reach, or if they're infected with the Flood, because those are the only two games where I actually felt the Covenant was a threat. But in Gears of War, the threat is persistent. The locusts are everywhere. It's just like at any point, an emergence hole can just pop up, which you could stop by throwing a grenade in there. Now, if you're a big Gears of War fan, you already know the story of this, and you also know the background material to it, because there's a lot of fleshed out material now that explains the Gears universe. But back then, when you see this motherfucker Ram on the screen, or Ram, whatever the hell his name is, back in the original, and if I remember correctly, because it's been a long time since I played the original, there wasn't a voiceover from the Queen. So at the time, you actually thought Ram was the big bad of the whole game until you got to the end where you saw the Queen. So the feeling you get when you play this game for the first time, like back then, this game pretty much feels like, oh, this game is just a one-off game. It has a beginning, middle, and end. But that's not the case. You know, this game, Gears 1, spawned a franchise that, yes, is hit or miss with people, but I think now is the time to bring it back. You know, the gameplay, this is what really started the third-person war action cover-to-cover system in a multiplayer slash single player setting, because battles in Gears of War are arena battles in between with some variation. There are some levels that are just all out action, some levels that are atmospheric, or some levels that are just a combination of two, or except for one, there's actually only one vehicle mission in the whole game, which is a shame, but they did rectify that in the sequels where you do ride more vehicles. You know, the weapons in this game, you could definitely feel the power behind a sniper shot, behind a shotgun, which is called a Gnasher, and the Lancer gun, which is basically your assault rifle, but it can also double as a melee weapon, booting it up with the chain gun. Now, the chain gun, I know a lot of people could be like, well, a lot of games have saw-like weapons or certain. There's nothing like the Lancer, okay? This gun stands alongside Master Chief's shotgun and the big, baddest sci-fi weapons of the time. This is like if you took an Alien's pulse rifle and put a chainsaw on it. That's fucking cool. The whole thing about Gears of War is, at the end of the day, Gears of War is just so damn cool. The characters are cool. You feel this camaraderie. They got the same kind of camaraderie that you would see from the Colonial Marines of Alien, or the teams of Arnold Schwarzenegger fighting the Predator, you know, that team, the Marines. These characters are so fucking cool. To Dominic, to Baird, to Cole, the whole cast is just awesome. Now, there is one level in the game that, even to this day, but it's not that it bothers me, it's just you really have to play it close if you're playing by yourself or if you're playing with a friend. This is where it shows, do your cooperation skills come into the play, and that is against the Berserker. And years ago, when I saw this fucking Berserker, he gave me the same feeling as if when I first played Lord of the Rings The Two Towers and you first fight the cave troll. And you're like, holy shit. That's what the Berserker gave me. Because it's blind, but it can hear you and can smell you, as Baird tells you in the game. What you have to do in this whole level is creep Crow to the doors, but also make the Berserker break down certain doors to get you to progress through the level. And then you have to basically take this damn thing, make it follow you through these maze of hallways until you could get it outside, where you could take it down with what is known as the Hammer of Dawn, which is another legendary weapon in gaming. It just point like a big ass laser pointer. Point that bitch, boot it up for a second, and blakata, right on top of the enemy, burn them to death. That is the only thing that can take out a Berserker in this game. I mean, you can take out Corpsers, and I forgot what the other creature is. Because there's one point in the game, there's one boss that's a big creature that you can't use the Hammer of Dawn on because it's offline. See, that's also how they try to balance it, because there's only, I think, 1 or 2 multiplayer maps that have it on there. But that's besides the point. As you go through this game leading up to that final battle on the train, and I swear, train fights are always fun in a video game. But when you play it by yourself, it is a test of patience. This is where you really need a co-op friend to defeat Ram. And then when you defeat Ram, especially in your mindset back in the day, back when this game came out and you're playing it for the first time, you believed that you ended the war right then and there. That's what we all thought when we first played Gears of War. We thought, we fucking did it. We just fucking did it. Until they tell you at the end of the game, or not at the end of the game, in a couple chapters previous, that the Locust threat is, their tunnels are massive, but you believe that you destroyed them with this bomb that you set off at the end of the game. But that's not the case, because Gears of War 2, which I hope also gets like a reloaded edition, the same with 3, 2, from this game going into part 2, you feel the difference of how dire the situation really is. But after you complete the story mode, whether by yourself or with a friend, there is the Gears of War multiplayer, which is, at the time, this is what a lot of us first dipped our feet into online console multiplayer gaming, because it really wasn't a thing except on Xbox and a basic way to hook up a LAN cable to PlayStation. But the Xbox 360 and the PS3 were our first taste of going into next-gen multiplayer at the time. Now, you would think the multiplayer in Gears might seem basic, and yes, yeah, the modes are here pretty basic. You know, you have your standard multiplayer, which doesn't work like a standard multiplayer. It's not like where you kill people and the points go up. You keep killing the opponent until they run out of lives, which kind of sounds more like a search and destroy type of situation or like a special kind of game mode. And then you have King of the Hill, you have shotguns only, you have a snipers only match, you have, I think, what is like a bounty hunt type thing, assassination, where you got to go take out the heads of each team. So there's a plethora of maps to play with, but the thing is, the game is so fun, and it does take a lot of practice to get good. The multiplayer, you could feel the difference between people who are new and people who have been playing Gears of War for a very long time. Like, my personal favorite match in this, or not match, my personal favorite mode is King of the Hill. There's Blitz, which is a fast-paced version, but King of the Hill is a more back and forth feeling type of match. Like, you'll really get the most out of playing the multiplayer in this mode. It takes you through all the maps. It works kind of like a TDM where you're all fighting each other, but the main objective is to capture the center point and hold it until your points hit 210. And this is 2 rounds, and sometimes a round can go between maybe 7.5 minutes to a full 9 minutes, so it would probably come out to close to an 18-minute to 20-minute match in total, and that's a nice fair amount of game to get in with 20 minutes. So, all the weapons here from the campaign are also used here in the multiplayer. Now, you don't customize your own character. This wasn't one of the games that would do that back at the time, where you could create a custom loadout character in multiplayer. You can, I believe, in Gears 5, where you could create your own COG soldier and take them into the field, or play as legacy characters. But here you play as the characters from the game. Now, the Locust, you play as each variant of the Locust. You also play as General Ram. You play as every single one of the COD soldiers that appear in the game or have alternate costumes. But all that aside, the multiplayer, though simplistic, is both fun, challenging, and it gives you that feeling of, shit, I just want one more match. This was back when games, you actually unlocked everything, where you don't have to just pay to get ahead. Of course, you run into those matches where there's people using maybe just snipers, and a lot of the connection, there was an update that I had just got today on the game that I think ironed out some of the multiplayer issues, because there was some issues with the crossplay. So for the time being, I had switched it to only playing on my platform, but then when I reopened it up, it was more stable. Maybe a glitcher here too when you use the the chainsaw on the Lancer. Sometimes it'll look like you're killing an invisible enemy, but you'll still get the kill animation, and you'll still get the points for it, even though your opponent just like suddenly exploded and turned into a puddle while you're trying to do it. But to get kills with that is you really need to have a lot of skill, and you need to utilize the cover system, because you can't just run and gun. That's not how this multiplayer is designed. It feels like, it feels like that classic multiplayer of being in third person, just wielding a gun, going bung-ho, using the grenades, using anything to your advantage to gain victory. There's actually some strategies where people are using shotguns and sliding from cover to cover. You really got to learn the maps. Like, you really got to learn them, because once you learn them, especially when it comes to King of the Hill, it's just makes it easier to go back and forth. You know where everything spawns at. You know where everything is, so you can be more efficient in trying to find the weapons you need, find where the next ring is going to appear, and try to outflank or outmaneuver your opponents. So, with that being said, the multiplayer is memorable for so many reasons, like Gears of War, Halo 3 at the time, Modern Warfare at the time, and I think, what was it? Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2? Or Modern Warfare and World at War? Whichever one. Out of those 3 Call of Duties that were next gen, all the games at the time couldn't hold up to both Halo and Gears of War. So I do hope in the future, or maybe within the next year or so, they start bringing it over for everyone to play again. I think this is the right time for Gears of War to come back. A lot of people don't particularly like 4 and 5. I didn't care much for 5. I only played the multiplayer because I beat the story. 4 I thought was better than 5 in terms of the story, but I really hope that Gears of War sees a big revival because Halo is still struggling to find its identity. Gears at least knows what it is, and release the whole series, because I understand now that there is a new prequel coming out, which I thought Gears Judgment was a prequel, but I guess it's just like a spin-off prequel or spin-off. I don't know. I like Gears Judgment. A lot of people didn't, but I did. I thought it was like an arcade style Gears game with challenges that happened and things are a little bit more fast-paced. But Gears of War Reloaded lays the foundations for more platform exclusivity to really die out. I think it's the right time for all platforms. I mean, I'm not going to ask Nintendo because Nintendo can go fuck themselves with how they price their games and don't want to share with anyone else. Gears of War can really start a new age with the gaming communities, and a lot of people deem it that this retarded console war is over because of this, which is good. PlayStation got Helldivers, we got Gears. Maybe if we get Halo, of course I want Xbox players to play God of War and see how fun that whole series is, and I hope they get to do so on their preferred platform in future. And they should also be able to get Spider-Man. It's only right. So Gears of War Reloaded is a great way to involve yourself with getting back into when multiplayer gaming on console was really beginning to take off more and more, and you could say Gears of War and Halo brought in the golden age of multiplayer gaming. You know, at the time you did have to pay for Xbox Live, where PlayStation was free at the time, but Gears of War, still to this day, it's a classic for a reason. It's still a fantastic game, whether to play it on your own or play it with your friends. So I hope you all were inspired or maybe encouraged to play this game and to buy it and experience it for yourself. This is Emperor John Q30 Gaming. Be sure to like, subscribe, favorite, and I'll see you all next time.